Now welcome to another Down the Rabbit Hole video. I thought I'd talk about the PlayStation 1 because I haven't for a while. And actually, I just had a recent comment on my playing with the NeGcon controller here. A guy called Victor Rodrigues was asking specifically about this Tempest X3. He noticed I was using the controller, and in fact, let's just do that right here. Hit start. And start again, and yeah, we'll just do Tempest X3. Oh, X to continue. There we go. You can see I'm using the controller and really enjoying it. There we go. Yeah, Victor was wondering, am I using the the NTSC version of Tempest X3? Clearly I am, because I own it here. Because apparently the NeGcon controller does not work with the PAL version of Tempest X3, which seems crazy to me. I mean, why? Oh, I gotta pay attention to the game. Why would they not make it so you can use the NeGcon, which is a great controller for this game? Why is that not possible? And yeah, Victor says it just doesn't work. Oh, I'm dying again. Let me just read out what he said in the comments here. I asked because I happen to be one of the 7 testers involved with this page. I'll put a link down below. They are brettons.org/NeGcon HTML. I believe the PAL version of Tempest X3 is incompatible with the NeGcon in general. I have tried my PAL copy of Tempest X3 and it does not work with the NeGcon at all. But the PAL versions of Xevious 3D/G+, which I've done a video about, Cyber Sled, and the Atari Anniversary Edition redo all do work fine with it. So this is something specific with Tempest X3 and not the NeGcon. Oh, my game is over. I have tried this myself using 2 different white NeGcons, one with the curved shoulder buttons and one with the square buttons. So I promised Victor I would come up or do a video here about a potential, not a solution per se. I think I promised him it was a solution. It's not for playing with the, let's go, there we go. It's not so much a solution for being able to play with the NeGcon if you have a PAL copy of Tempest X3, because I don't think, if that thing ain't going to work, I just don't think this is going to be a solution for you. But I do have an interesting observation that I made when I first got Tempest X3. I was really hoping to be able to play it with a spinner, and that is what the NeGcon is. Works really great. I really, really love it. But what I found very interesting, let's see if we can just do, I'm going to do there we go. See that Eat Electric Death? That's its version of the Super Hyperdrive? What the heck do they call it? Super... basically the bonus multi-shot that you can use in Tempest, the original and Supercharger? I can't remember now. See, trying to play and also trying to recall retro gaming facts is almost as hard as trying to play a driving game and talk at the same time. Supercharger? That thing! Anyway, Eat Electric Death, they say. Yeah, so I was really, really hoping to have a solution because I love using... And how do you do jump? Oh, there's jump. Okay. Well, it got me anyway. Super Zapper! That's the word. That's the word I'm trying to find. Yeah, the NeGcon is a great solution for that. It's a great way to play Tempest X3, but apparently not on the PAL version. Oh, I think I'm dead anyway. Yep, I'm dead anyway. Now, what I wanted to provide for Victor as not so much a solution for the NeGcon, but an alternative way to play, I found out by mistake or by accident. See, I have this... the little PlayStation 1, let me pick this thing up here, you know, the PS1, like ONE, the mini sort of version of the PlayStation with the little screen, if I wanted to play on that as well. And that came with a specific controller. This is it here, the DualShock, we all know. But what's interesting is this is the one that actually has the little selector, so you can enable analog control. There was a period for the PlayStation era where they started to add these thumbsticks into games, and certain games you wanted to be able to make a selection between, is this digital, so in other words it works just like a D-pad, or is this analog for specific games like tank games and that kind of stuff. You'd actually press this analog control button here. It's not lighting up right now because I've still got the NeGcon plugged in. Let me swap those around. There we go. I have now plugged in this DualShock controller because if I press the button there, you can see it lights up with the analog light. First time I ever played Tempest X3 here on my little PS1, I didn't realize the analog button was enabled or turned on, and ironically, that turned out to be the best way to play Tempest X3. Even, I would argue, almost better than the NeGcon, with one small flaw. Now, let me just launch a game, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, well, here's our first flaw. I was hoping to have it as a surprise. With analog button enabled, it doesn't seem to recognize the buttons, the actual selectors and things, which is a problem because now you can't play anything. You can go up and down the list. If I turn that back off, I can launch a game. And then if I turn it back, let's launch another game. Fire. There we go. I'm going to turn analog back on, and I find I can actually just use the controller, like the thumbstick. And I have got a heck of a lot more precision and control. I can get farther playing the game this way than I can with the NeGcon. It's very strange. I think because it's twitch control. Like you can see my thumb is just going crazy there. The downside is I've got no control over any of the buttons, so it's just constantly doing fire, and I can't jump, I don't think. Oh, I can jump. Okay, my mistake. Let me just go around. Now it seems to be stuck or mapped only to the right stick. Now I got my droid. But I get so much farther along in the game playing this way. It's fantastic. It's a really, like, for something I discovered by mistake, I was really, really thrilled. It's like, hey, this is just the way to play the game from now on. I'll just use this thumbstick, jittery, like, quickly back, super zapper, that was the word. I'll just use this thing, sort of rapidly zipping back and forth here. Yeah, it's on automatic fire, which is fine for a game like this. And honestly, that saves my thumb after a while. And the jump works. Now, I don't think Super Zapper works. Let me just see. What would that be? Square? Yeah, okay. So I can do the jump thing, but I don't always seem to be able to use the Super Zapper, and that is a strategic choice you have to make. Like, do you want to be able to get further in the game? You can still jump, but Super Zapper, I think even the Super Zapper just fires automatically when the level launches, so you immediately lose your Super Zapper. Not a great way to play, but I honestly find I get further playing Tempest X3 with this little hack or accidental way of playing. Just this, there, did you hear it? There, eat electric death. So it does fire off the Super Zapper immediately. That's a disadvantage of playing this way. But I do find just being able to zip back and forth, I get a heck of a lot farther in the game this way than I do playing with the NeGcon. Super strange. So, for Victor, and I guess anybody else who's got this way to play, and they really would like to be able to play Tempest X3 in an unusual manner, and one that really works for me, use this controller. This is actually an awesome way to play Tempest X3. Just as a side note, to actually address Victor's issue directly about making the NeGcon work for the PAL version of Tempest X3, I want to make one possible suggestion here that's separate from just using the analog stick, and that is there's a great channel on YouTube that I discovered a really interesting roundabout way to hook up a bunch of adapters to make stuff work. They're called Wired Up Retro, and I'm going to put a link to their channel down below. The guy there showed me years ago a very interesting technique of how to make a NeGcon work hooked up to a PlayStation 3. And as part of his video, he did say with this strange combination of adapters, you can sometimes make a NeGcon be recognized on an old PlayStation 1 for games that it doesn't actually usually have analog control. For example, using this hookup, which I'm going to show you in a second, you could do Crash Team Racing. Was it Crash Team Racing or Crash Racing? You know, the Crash Bandicoot version of Mario Kart that didn't have steering or analog control. But with this little hookup, you can steer Crash with this NeGcon. So let me just show you what's involved. Now, it requires getting a few hard-to-find pieces, but it really is a good idea. First thing you would need is this, which is from the company called Innovation, and it's called the X connection. Worth noting, it has to be the X connection and not the X adapter or X innovation. What this thing does is you would plug your controller into it here, NeGcon in this case, and what that does is that then turns the NeGcon into an Xbox, like original series Xbox controller. You can use this now on original Xbox driving games. From there, the next thing you're going to need is this. This is called the XP Joybox. This is also a little bit hard to find, much like the Innovation X connection. But this will take an Xbox original connection, so we just hook that in there, and it'll turn it back into a PlayStation connection. So that might work. If you hook up NeGcon to X connection by Innovation, and then the X connection into the XP Joybox, and then plug that into your PlayStation, that might make your NeGcon work in the PAL version of Tempest X3. For anybody who wants to know, all you would need to do to get this whole rig to work on an PS3 would be to get one of these little standard PlayStation to USB adapters, but that's not part of this conversation. So yeah, with luck, that might work. Victor, I would recommend definitely check out Wired Up Retro. Those folks always have got really good ways of hooking up different kinds of adapters to make different kinds of controllers work on different kinds of machines. What's ironic is you just want to make this thing work like it does in North America. You want Tempest X3 to work with the NeGcon just like it does for me. Highly recommend it. And yeah, it's actually the way I end up playing it more often, even though I have the NeGcon, and even though it doesn't allow me to do the Super Zapper. I get a lot farther and I have a lot more success. And trust me, in the later levels when this game goes nuts, that's a beneficial thing. Now, one side thing worth noting, there are levels here where you also have to go through rings, and those you have to do with the D-pad. But you can do them. You don't have to switch off analog mode. If you do find that for some reason it doesn't work, like you're stuck, then just very rapidly grab the analog button, and then you're flying through your rings. Just thought I would point that out because it is a weird part of this game I've never really understood. The flying through rings section kind of took me by surprise. I think it's like 9 or 10 levels in. So yeah, just thought I would add in that note as well. All right, well, I hope that helps you out, Victor, and anybody else who's interested in playing Tempest X3 in an unusual fashion. Like I said before, this definitely gets me farther along in the game than I do with just the NeGcon. It's counterintuitive. You wouldn't think that would work, but it totally does. All right, until next time, we'll see you down the rabbit hole.